Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and this is day 69 of my doing 100 days of making YouTube videos and focusing on gratitude. And I've been kind of not necessarily rethinking what I'm doing, but thinking about what I'm doing and maybe thinking about renaming things. Because it occurs to me that not only have I been focusing on gratitude, but I have been learning and healing by focusing on gratitude. And I was thinking maybe I should start titling my videos something like the process of healing through gratitude, or emotional growth through gratitude, or something through gratitude. Because I talk a lot about my emotions, I talk a lot about my process. So if I go make thumbnails or something for my YouTube videos, might have some interesting titles, because it is a lot about my thoughts. It is a lot about my feelings. It's a lot about the processes I'm going through to heal, to let go of things, to change my perspective, to have a different viewpoint because of the things that I'm grateful for. And another viewpoint that I discovered last night that I was not too thrilled about, to be perfectly honest. Another thing to point out my own flaws. There's always that thing when you point one finger at one person for something, there's, what is it, three fingers pointing back at you? So, yes, and there's, I've heard in 12-step before, that's the whole mirror thing. It's like when someone's irritating you about something, maybe you're looking in a mirror at yourself, maybe it's something about yourself that you don't like that you're seeing reflected in that other person. I don't like those thoughts, but they're reminders for me to help me to change, to see my perspective, to see my point of view differently. And last night was just kind of an interesting realization that God was pointing out to me, because I've been very frustrated. I think I've vented some of my frustration in these videos with my living situation. And then last night I realized that it's in part my fault. And I didn't like that at all, because I don't like the way that I've been treated. I don't like the way things have been going. But the part that's my fault is that I didn't say anything in the beginning. When it first happened, I just assumed it was a one-time thing and it would go away. And then it continued to happen, and then I continued to respond to it. I continued to do exactly what the other person wanted me to do. And so then when I finally said I am done and I can't take it anymore, and I did not respond, then the other person just didn't stop, didn't go away, just continued, because I had always responded in the past. And so I realized that it's my fault I hadn't set a boundary, and I'd complained about it to other people before, and they'd all told me to set a boundary. They'd all told me to say something to this person, to stand up for myself. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay, I'll do that. And I never did it. I just didn't do it, because that's not in my nature to do. It is something in my nature I probably need to change. And I guess by saying in my nature, that's who I am. And I can't change it, but it is something I can change. It's just something about me that I realized as I was journaling last night, that that's what I've been taught my whole life, is that it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter when I said no or I disagreed with something. People just were going to do it anyway. So I had to learn how to deal with it. I had to learn how to live with it, because they were just going to do whatever they wanted. But I grew up around people that didn't respect each other's property, that didn't respect each other's space. There was no personal space. There was no, this belonged to me. I'm like, oh yeah, it belongs to you, but I can take it and use it whenever I want. There's nothing you can do about it. There was a guy I was trying not to date when I was in high school. And yes, I say trying not to, because everyone thought we were dating. And I kept saying, I'm not old enough to date. I'm not interested in dating. And I'm certainly not interested in being anything other than friends with this guy. And at this point, I don't even want to be friends with him, because he keeps bugging me. And everybody saw us together like, oh, but you're dating. Oh, is that your boyfriend? I'm like, no, he's not my boyfriend. No, he's just won't leave me alone. And he kept always coming over, and I kept trying to get him to go away, and he wouldn't go away. And I specifically remember telling him something. I don't remember what it was that I was upset about. I just remember his response, because I asked him to stop doing something because it bothered me. And he looked right at me and he said, well, it doesn't bother me, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And I was like, seriously? Like, no respect whatsoever. This is my whole life. Like, standing up for myself didn't work when I was growing up. I was told I wasn't supposed to feel that way. I was told I couldn't do things that way. Or like that guy was like, well, it doesn't bother me, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, doesn't matter what you think, I'm going to keep doing it. You know, if everybody else in the family wanted to go do something I didn't want to do, I had to go do it. But if I wanted to do something that no one else wanted to do, I didn't get to do it because nobody else wanted to do it with me. And I was like, so I can't ever do what I want. And everyone else, I have to do what everyone else wants because it makes everyone else happy. And so without realizing it, I had been trained, I had been taught, I had believed, internalized into myself that what I wanted, what my needs were, didn't matter, that they didn't have to be met. As long as everyone else was happy, then by default I was happy. Except that I wasn't happy. And it felt wrong to me. Like, how I was being treated felt wrong. And I interpreted that as being wrong, like there was something wrong with me, and not realizing that there was something wrong with the situation and there was something wrong with the way other people were treating me. I just thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't fit in, because I didn't agree, because I didn't understand. So there must be something wrong with me. And it was kind of the breakthrough to realize, I'm like, it wasn't me. Oh my gosh, it was not me. I was trying to set boundaries my whole life. I've been trying to stand up and say something, and people just ignored me, or they bullied me into doing things, or, you know, made me feel guilty, ashamed, like that whole shame, blame, manipulation thing, until I would cave and do it. And then I was never happy. I was miserable doing it, but it made them happy. So I'm like, yay, you're happy. Can I go now? So it was just, this moment. If I could just get through this moment of misery to do whatever they want, then they'll go away and they'll leave me alone. And I realized that's what I've been doing since I lived here. Rather than saying I'm not comfortable with things, I just keep waiting for it to go away. I'm like, hey, I'll just do this one thing and then it'll go away. And then you'll leave me alone. And then it's like, oh, well, you did that one thing. Do something else. No, I don't want to do anything else. Leave me alone. But I continued to accept the unacceptable behavior without saying anything. And then, because I did get angry the other day, and then I did set a boundary that was actually respected yesterday. And it was kind of a nice surprise. And it was a different response. The other person actually responded differently because they were now aware that what they were doing was bothering me. And I know it's wrong, but I somehow just assumed the other person, common sense, would figure out that what they were doing was bothering me. Like they were just going to read my mind and know that this is insane and they should stop. But the insane thing was my thinking they would read my mind, was that they would just change. Or the other insane thing was thinking that I just have to suffer, that I just have to live through this, that I just have to use this as a means to get to somewhere else so I can get away from the situation. But I don't get away from myself, and I need to learn to stand up for myself, because as much as I would love to say I can get away from this situation, there will be other situations, other opportunities that are going to be like this, because that's what God does. He keeps sending the same situations until we learn from them, until we grow from them, until they're no longer an issue. And even though they may keep popping up, we've learned how to deal with them, and they don't mess up our lives anymore. It's not like the end of the world. I don't have to get angry. I don't have to lose my peace over it. I don't have to get frustrated. I don't have to yell, whatever. I can be like, okay, yeah, no, this is my boundary. You've crossed my boundary. You need to step back over there. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Let's move on. And I've heard that so many times, but I have not done that in my life. And it was kind of nice to see that it works, but I kind of feel bad because I let it get to the point where I was so frustrated, I was so angry, where I just didn't want to be here anymore. I wasn't at peace with myself, with my situation, and I was just like, And then I kept telling myself it was just going to be like this, and I just couldn't see that it didn't have to be like this, that it could be different, that it could be better. I was so triggered because it reminded me so much of how I grew up that I felt trapped. And I knew I felt that way, but I'm like, how do I get out of this? And it's by setting a boundary, it's by speaking up for myself, it's by changing my behavior. That's how I get out of it. And I I knew that mentally, but I think kind of yesterday it sort of started to sink in a little bit. And I was just really grateful for the new insight, the perspective that as long as I allow the behavior that bothers me to continue and don't say anything. And I'm like, no wonder people get frustrated with me, because I just ignore bad behavior. I ignore things that bug me until I can't stand it anymore. And I'm like, look, this bothers me. I was like, oh, well, it didn't bother you before. And I'm like, yeah, it did. I just didn't say anything before. And they're like, well, why didn't you say something sooner? I'm like, because I didn't know you were going to keep doing it. I don't know. Because I was just so afraid of being rejected, I think, or mocked or shut down or told that it didn't bother them, so it didn't matter. And they were just going to keep doing it because that's what I learned, and that was wrong. What I learned was wrong. What other people were doing in my life when I was growing up was wrong. I wasn't taught how to express myself. I wasn't listened to when I did express myself. Boundaries were not taught to be respected in the home that I grew up in. And we've all, my siblings, myself, whatever, everyone, I'm sure, has had to figure out their own boundaries, what works for them as individuals. And I'm sure all of you watching this have had to do the same thing and figured out where your boundaries are at. But I think in part of realizing that I'm a daughter of God and seeing myself the way that He sees me, I am someone of value. I am someone that should be listened to, that should have my boundaries respected, that I have rights. I am not a doormat. I don't have to just stay in uncomfortable situations. I don't have to believe what other people tell me is true. I can determine for myself if it's true or not. I can determine if it works for me or not. And yes, I can respect other people and respect that they have different beliefs, that they have different things that are true for them or that work for them, because we're not all designed to be the same. We're designed to be differently. We all learn how to respond differently. We're all taught differently. And of course, if something works for us, we're going to keep doing it. And unless somebody comes along and says, you know, that's not right, you know, that's not nice, you know, that's hurting other people, right? And it's like, I had no idea. And in my case, it was hurting me. I was hurting myself and possibly the relationship with this other person, because I'm not getting to know that person. I'm just getting to be irritated with that person. And they're not getting to know me because I'm not standing up and saying something. I'm not sharing the situation. And it was just interesting to see that, to realize that it's as much my fault when I end up in a bad situation, if it's a perpetual bad situation. If I continue to get frustrated, then maybe it is something about me and not the other person. It is time for me to look in a mirror. It is time for me to reevaluate, how am I responding to this person? Am I telling this person? Am I telling the situation? Am I looking at it in a way that maybe I'm allowing it to happen, or that maybe there's something I can do to change it so that it's not so frustrating? And it's something as simple to me as just changing my perspective. And it had to change the boundary. I had to set the boundary. It had to be respected for me to realize that I had spent this whole time being frustrated because I didn't stand up for myself. And then when I stood up for myself, the situation got resolved. I'm like, hopefully it stays that way. I don't know, but it felt better yesterday. And it's like, oh, and then if something happens again in the future, I can just remind myself and the other person that there's a boundary in place, that these are the rules. And as long as they're respected, then everything works out okay, then everybody's happy, then it's a peace. There's not that frustration, that contention, that irritation. It's so much freer, it's lighter, and I think I actually slept yesterday because of that. I slept and I was like, oh, it feels so good to sleep today. And then I just don't want to wake up because it was relaxing. I actually want to stay home tonight and not go to work, and I want to work on other things. And I'm like, oh, I have this I want to do. I want to work on my writing. I want to work on other things because I'm no longer frustrated with the situation. I know I don't want to live here forever, but maybe it won't be so horrible because I set a boundary, because I spoke up for myself. And then I'm realizing if I don't speak up for myself, if I don't tell other people what I like or don't like, they don't know. They're not mind readers. And sometimes I don't know. And I need to learn. But my default setting, my default response needs to change, because it is to just tolerate the stuff that I should not tolerate, to tolerate things that make me uncomfortable, to tolerate things that I don't like, to tolerate things that make me sacrifice myself and my needs and my wants. And I'm not saying that sacrificing for other people is a bad thing, but I think there's a difference between being forced to sacrifice for other people and choosing to sacrifice for other people. Because I think when we choose to do it, we choose to do it out of love. We choose to do it because there's a purpose in mind, there's a goal in mind, there's a reason behind it. And we know that the sacrifice is temporary, but the result is worth it. You sacrifice a little bit of sleep to go to school at night, to get a degree so you can have a better job, so you can provide better for your family. It's worth the sacrifice. You have kids, you get up in the middle of the night, you go without sleep because you want them to sleep, you want them to be happy, you want them to have their needs met. So you go without a little bit so that they can have what you didn't have. But you do it out of love. You do it because you want to. And some days you get burned out and you're like, hey, I can't do it today. Somebody else take the kids because I need a refresher. I need a break. I need a staycation or something somewhere. I need to go out with the girlfriends, the guy friends, the whatever. And we all need that. We all need to regenerate in some form or another. And it's a good thing to do that. And it's good to sacrifice. But it's completely different, that feeling, when someone forces you to do the sacrifice, when someone's taking away from you your right to have your needs met, constantly interrupting your sleep whether you want them to or not, taking away your food, taking away your rights, telling you that, it doesn't matter how you feel, they're going to continue to do the things that bother you because it doesn't bother them. That's abuse. That's what that is. That is not acceptable behavior. And it doesn't feel good. It makes me feel, like a doormat, like there's something wrong with me. It makes me it's frustrating, it's irritating, it's hurtful. And I've been the victim, and the only way to not be the victim and to not just be the survivor is to stand up, is to change, is to say, okay, that happened, but it doesn't have to keep happening, to set a boundary, to put a stop and say, I'm done. That's it. We're going to move forward and it's going to be different because I'm not accepting this unacceptable behavior any longer. I am worth having my needs met. I do need to have my sleep. I do need to eat food. I haven't eaten food, that's why I'm talking about it. I'm hungry. I starve myself quite often. It's terrible. Nobody else actually does that to me. I just don't make buying groceries and making food a priority in my life. That probably needs to be one of my things that I do for 100 days of taking care of myself. Maybe that should be my next set of videos, either 100 days of writing or 100 days of learning how to take care of myself, of putting my needs first. Because I don't do that at all. And I often think that it's selfish to do that because I have been taught that my entire life. But I realize even from a very young age, when my biological mother was trying to teach me to give to others, to sacrifice what I wanted, she didn't give me the choice to sacrifice. She told me I had to. And I mean, it was something petty. It was clothes. But I'm like, I'd gotten a bunch of hand-me-down clothes, and they were nice clothes because my cousins got really nice store-bought stuff. I got the homemade stuff, which, in retrospect is not bad, and actually is a lot of work for someone to home make everything. So my mother homemade all of my clothes, which was a nice thing at the time. But of course, we always want what we don't have, And so I always wanted the store-bought clothes and not the homemade clothes. And so I got hand-me-downs, and they were store-made, they were store-bought clothes, and they looked so cool and so much better. They had all the fancy designs, they had all that stuff that, I didn't have, and I wanted it. But I, of course, had two cousins, and so two sets of clothes, and I did not need that many clothes. I wanted them, of course, I wanted them. But I was forced to share them with a neighbor friend. And so we took all these bag of clothes over to their house and went through them. And then we fought over a shirt. And I don't remember what the design on the shirt was, but I really wanted that shirt. And I'm like, I wanted it. And I'm like, I should get to keep it because they're my clothes. My cousin sent them to me. It was my choice. And I was forced to let her have it because she was the friend and we were sharing and we were giving. And I was like, really? Because I don't want to give any of this stuff away. I wanted to keep it all. I'm a very selfish little girl, let me tell you. And maybe it's because I didn't feel like I got a lot, so I liked being showered with the attention. Being where I was in the family, I didn't feel like I got the attention I wanted, or the attention that I thought I deserved. And I still don't as an adult, but I also don't give myself that attention anymore. I don't go out and buy myself new clothes. All my clothes have holes in them and they're worn out. I can't even remember the last time I've been shopping and clothes are getting too tight. I need to get some bigger ones or I need to lose some weight or something. And I just still haven't gone and bought new clothes because I don't meet my needs. My needs aren't important, which is the lies that I tell myself. They're the lies that I internalized, that I believed based on the situations that I was in. It's not like someone told me that my needs weren't met. It's not like someone told me I couldn't have new clothes. I just was always taken to DI for hand-me-downs, or I was always given the homemade stuff, even the hand-me-downs from my cousins that came from the store originally, but they were still hand-me-downs. And even those I had to give away. And it was very frustrating to me that all of those things I was forced to give away, and I wasn't given the choice. And being told my entire life that I had to be the peacemaker, that it was my job to fix things, and that I didn't even have the power to fix those things, and that I thought that I was a failure because I failed to fix other people's problems. And it's taken me a long time to realize, well, of course I failed at that because that wasn't my job. It wasn't in my power to fix someone else's situation, someone else's feelings. It wasn't even in my power to fix my marriage because my ex didn't want to be married. He didn't want to discuss it. He didn't want to talk about it. I was like, and I couldn't make him do it. I was like, and I think that was a lesson I had to learn. It was a very harsh lesson to learn. It was a very hard lesson to learn because I had based my entire self-esteem, my whole self-worth on my ability to fix other people, to be the peacemaker, to give up who I am to make everyone else happy, because that is what I did my entire life. That is what I had been taught. That is what I had internalized, that nothing was mine. If someone else wanted it, they could just take it. So it's like, oh yeah, you want this here, you can have it. I don't really want you to have it. I really want it back. It's mine. It's really nice. It's brand new. Oh yeah, you can have it. Sure. Yay. And I'll go back to the old one, the hand-me-down, the whatever, because I'm not allowed to have nice things. And no one said that. They just didn't give me nice things. And I'm sure I got nice things at Christmas and birthdays and other things, but like everything else in my life growing up, after a month or two, nobody even knows whose was whose because nothing got put away in rooms or drawers or whatever. Everything just got played with by everybody or destroyed by everybody. And we weren't taught to respect things or to respect each other's boundaries. And that's very sad because I learned that I wasn't allowed to have boundaries because of that other people didn't have to respect me or my things. And I learned not to respect myself and my things. And yesterday, that idea and writing in my journal and realizing all of these things, it's kind of like God has been trying to tell me probably for a long time, for my whole life, that every time it felt wrong, it was because the situation was wrong. It was because how I was being treated was wrong. It was because I did deserve something better. Because my self-esteem, my self-worth isn't based on my ability to fix other people or my ability to sacrifice who I am, to give up who I am for other people. I'm not meant to give up who I am. I'm not meant to be the chameleon, to change on a whim to meet other people's happiness. I'm not meant to be a mind reader. Those weren't gifts that God gave me. I'm not sure those are gifts that He's given to anyone. They might be gifts that He has, but they're not gifts that He's given, because we're meant to learn to communicate. We're meant to speak up for ourselves. We're meant to set boundaries. And of course, we're meant to share what we've been given, but there's a time and a place to share, and we have to be filled up and free and ready to share, ready to let go of whatever, to do it from a place of love, because we feel like it will help someone else, because we're doing a service, and not because it's taken away or because you don't feel worthy to have it and someone else does. And I don't know why everyone else is valued above me. That doesn't even make sense. But that's how I've always felt, like everyone else was better. Everyone else deserved better. I couldn't have better because everyone else has to have better. And if I have something better, then someone else is just going to come along and take it because I'm not allowed to have better. And that sounds horrible. Just even saying it out loud, it sounds horrible. But that is how I have viewed myself. And that is so sad to realize that that is how I have viewed myself, that I have allowed people to cross my boundaries, that I have not stood up for myself, that I have felt like I didn't have a right to speak up for myself because someone else deserved better and I didn't deserve to be respected. And I didn't respect myself. I haven't respected myself. I haven't respected my own boundaries. I break my own boundaries, my own rules all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna set these goals. I'm gonna do this, and then I give up. I don't follow through because I'm not worth it. But I've been wrong. I am worth it. I am a daughter of God. I can stand up for myself. I can view myself as someone that has value, that's not based on relationships with other people, that's not based on how other people view me, because maybe their perspective is just as distorted as my own, and they don't see me clearly. And how can they see me clearly when I don't even tell them who I am? I don't speak up. I don't share that because I must be this horrible person because nobody liked me. Nobody paid attention to me. And I was always hiding. So how could they see me? And the people that saw me or saw through my little facade or hiding whatever, I thought that was crazy people for liking me. They just can't see me clearly because if they knew how horrible I was, they wouldn't like me. And the problem is I get to know myself and I'm like, I can't find something terribly, horribly wrong with me. I can't find something that make people totally hate me. Maybe that I talk too much. I do talk a lot. I ramble, I don't always process information immediately. I change my mind a lot, so that could be frustrating. It takes me time to figure out what I want to do, so maybe that's frustrating. Maybe because I just complain a lot because that's what I was taught to do. Or maybe because I just don't speak up and share who I am with other people. And those are the only things I can think of. And then, or maybe we just don't have things in common. So it's like, okay, we're just going to agree to disagree. We're all good, right? I don't know the answer to that. That laugh sounded really weird. I'm sorry. Can't control myself sometimes. Probably most of the time. But I'm grateful that I can have a different perspective today. I am grateful for the things that I am learning through focusing on gratitude, through seeing God's hand in my life, that it has been an emotional journey. It really has, but it's been a process of healing. It's been a process of understanding myself. It's been a process of seeing my value, and that I've been placing my value in other people's hands instead of in God's hands, instead of my own hands. That I have not been living up to the worth that I have. What is that saying? The worth of souls is great in the sight of God. And I have acted like I have no worth, and that everyone else can do whatever they want, and I just have to deal with it. So then I just get frustrated and vent to other people because there's nothing I can do about it. But there is. I can stand up and say no. I can put my foot down. I can set a boundary. I'm not comfortable doing it. I'm not good at it. I'm new at it. But it's a change. It's a direction that I want to go because I'm starting to see that I'm worth that. Because I don't like how I'm being treated. And the problem is I let other people treat me that way, and I'm probably the worst at how I treat myself because I berate myself for not following through on goals, for not getting up and going straight to work, for playing my games. I don't eat. I don't go to the store and buy groceries. I go out and get fast food stuff when I have money. If I don't have money, then I guess I'm just not going to eat. Or I don't have something in the house and I'm like, oh, I'm just too tired. I don't want to go out. And I'm like, I'm probably tired because I'm hungry. My body has no energy, no nourishment. I'm like, seriously, I need food. But I have learned to ignore my needs, even basic needs like food and new clothes. It's insane to see how much I've devalued myself based on how I was treated, and feeling like my worth was caught up in how other people treated me, how other people viewed me. And I don't even know how they viewed me entirely because they don't always say. It's just how they treated me. And it was my interpretation of their treatment that I determined my value on, because I'm not a mind reader. I don't know how they actually feel about me. And in some cases, I think some of those people were just so caught up in their own trauma that their viewpoint of everything was distorted, including their vision of themselves was distorted. And it's given me a lot of compassion for the abusers, for the people in my life, to understand that they did not understand that what they were doing was not okay. And thankfully, that guy from high school finally went away. I don't know when or how he finally went away, but I spent a lot of time ignoring him and avoiding him, which is another thing that I learned, that if I ignore people and I avoid people and walk away, eventually they go away. However, that doesn't work for bills and creditors and other things like that. You can't just ignore responsibilities as an adult because people keep coming, and the only way to get them to go away is to actually pay them, to actually pay the bills, to actually do what you're supposed to do. So facing things and setting boundaries works. But in cases like that guy from high school, the avoidance is probably the only thing, or, a court order saying stay away from me because you're not respecting my boundaries, and I will force you to respect my boundaries. Thankfully, I haven't run into that as an adult. That was a high school experience when I was like 15, I think. So long ago. Seriously, so long ago. But it resonated with me. It stuck with me because he wasn't someone I liked. He wasn't someone I was even interested in. He was just, I thought, was just a friend, and then he wanted to be more than friends, and I didn't. And then he started telling everyone we were, and he kept asking me out, and I kept saying no, and it would not go. And so, but maybe he was attracted to me because I was the doormat, because he could get away with it, because he could continue to bully his way into my life, and eventually I would cave and let him do whatever he wanted, and he was happy with that. I was not, but he was. So I'm grateful he is not in my life. But that was a difficult situation for me, and sadly, it was not, I was not supported in my decision to get rid of him. Everyone else seemed to think that we should be together, that, oh, it's so cute, you're a cute little couple. Oh, it's so cute, you're dating. And I'm like, no, it's not. And we're not dating. It was not pleasant. And I think that's another part of my struggle, is I felt like I was always fighting to get people to hear what I was saying, always fighting. And at some point, I think I just gave up. I just said, it's not worth it. I'm not going to keep fighting because nobody's listening. But I'm grateful that there's that little voice inside of me, that little girl inside of me that's like, oh, but I am worth it. That I can come out. I can be a brat. I can be obnoxious. It's okay. I can be me. And it's nice to be me. I like me, and I like that I can like me because I didn't like me for a long time. Probably because I didn't get to know me, because I just, heard what everyone else said, that I was a pest, that I was obnoxious, that I was silly. You're like, are those really bad things? I mean, come on, seriously. They're fun. That's me. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's boundaries, and I didn't respect other people's boundaries because no one ever respected mine. And so I'm having to learn how to respect other people's boundaries, and I'm having to learn how to set my own boundaries and how to respect my own boundaries. And I'm grateful that I can see that, and I'm grateful to realize that a lot of my problems and frustrations lie in myself. And if I can change, then my situation will change, my attitude will change, and I will be okay where I'm at. And I don't, have to urgently move somewhere else. I don't have to urgently, run away. That's my default setting. Run away, get away, start over somewhere else, and it'll be better. Except that I go with me everywhere I go. And if I don't learn to stand up for myself everywhere I go, I continue to have people that find me that are like, oh, look, she's a doormat. We can walk all over her. And I was like, why? I just moved here. Why are people walking all over me? And that's why, because I let them, because I just lay down and let them. I don't stand up and fight. And it's hard to stand up and fight, especially when it's a new behavior, it's a change, especially when people have laughed at me for fighting or have ignored me. But I can't stop. I can't be quiet. I'm a motor mouth. You can ask anybody. I talk too much. I probably ramble too much in these videos, so I appreciate anybody that's willing to listen to all of my ramblings. And I hope that you're learning something from the process of things that I'm learning. And I find this focusing on gratitude thing to be a very interesting process. I did not think when I started focusing on gratitude that I was going to be shifting my perspective, that it was going to be changing my responses to other people, that it was going to be changing my own responses, that I was going to be learning how to change my own behaviors, that I was going to be learning how to value myself, for who I am, to value myself enough to set boundaries, to stand up for myself, that I was going to be making these many changes emotionally that I've probably needed to make for years. But like I said, my perspective has changed based on gratitude. And if I wasn't focusing on the things that I'm grateful for and focusing on myself and focusing on God and the gifts that He's given me, I wouldn't be able to make these changes. I wouldn't even be aware of these things. I mean, look, I've been frustrated for days about my situation and just wishing I could move and couldn't. And then I finally realized that I just needed to set a boundary. And people have been telling me that this entire time. And I was just like, yeah, that doesn't work. Like, I just automatically discounted it because it hadn't worked in the past. And I'm having to relearn that just because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean that it won't work. And some things don't work with unhealthy people or people that can't see themselves clearly, that don't understand what that means, that didn't grow up with those being taught how to respect others. And that's sad. That's very sad for them. It's kind of sad for me. But I'm grateful that I can learn. I'm grateful that it doesn't matter how old I get, I can still discover new things about myself, that I can share what I'm learning about myself with other people, that I can share my discoveries, and hopefully you can have similar discoveries about yourself by watching mine, by taking that experiment and focusing on gratitude and seeing what that gratitude will show you. And I'm in awe at this point, and I feel overwhelmed and very loved by my Heavenly Father, and very grateful for the things that I am learning about myself, for the changes that are being made in me, in my perspective of myself and perspective of others, and realizing that I can change, that I am worth it. And yes, it is quite an elongated process. But I feel like these are all things that I needed to discover, that I needed to do in order to become a pest again, to get people to beta read my books, or to be willing to search out other people that can beta read my books so that I can actually finish the process, to realize that I am worth having my dreams met, that I can have good things, that I don't have to give them up because it's difficult, and I don't have to give them up because I feel like other people think I don't deserve them, which is a weird way to feel or to think, or feel like if I succeed at something, that means someone else is not succeeding and I'm standing in their way of success and their way is more important than mine. And I don't think I'm standing in anyone's way except for my own at this point. And if I am, I'm sorry. It is not my intent, but I'm very oblivious. I am not the most observant person in the world. I'm really not. And the only time I'm hyper observant about something is someone that I care about, and then I try to do all of the things for them and get them all the things that they like and all the things that they want. And I probably annoy them to death by doing that. And they never have to pay attention to me because I give them everything they want and they just think that's how I am. I'm like, oh yeah, you're this great person, but yeah, just do everything for me. That's great. Nothing. And I get nothing in return other, occasionally a thank you. And and then I get a broken heart. And it ain't worth it. But like I said, I'm learning and I'm grateful. I'm also grateful to see that service and sacrifice can be a good thing, but it all depends on the reason behind it. It depends on if it's being forced or if it's given willingly. And that makes a huge difference in the sacrifice, in the feeling, and it makes a difference. It all makes a difference. And God's sacrifice, the Savior dying on the cross, he did willingly. Nobody forced him to do that. He did that himself. He went to the Garden of Gethsemane himself. He chose that. He at one point asked if there was another way, because if there was another way, he would take it. But if not, he was still willing to go through with the process. It wasn't forced on him. And I'm so grateful that he did that for me, for you, for all of us. And I'm grateful that I can have a better understanding of that. And I'm grateful to know that when I'm ready, when I'm healed, that what I can do is I can do service to other people. I can give of myself to other people. And in a way, I'm doing that through these videos. I'm giving of myself. I'm sharing my journey, my process of seeing the things that are good in my life and realizing that I deserve good in my life because I'm grateful for things, because I'm seeing the things that are good in my life, the things to be grateful for. Because if you got to focus on gratitude, then you see the good things, and it will change your perspective. It will change your focus. It will change your responses to things. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I don't have to beat myself up, that I don't have to feel guilty about taking care of myself, that the more I focus on gratitude and on good things, the more I'm like, oh, I need to take better care of myself. I need to exercise. I need to eat. I really need to go eat food. That would be good. I need to sleep. I need to set boundaries. I need to be me and not try to be someone else and not try to please anyone else but myself. And just trust that people will either accept me for who I am or they will not. And it doesn't matter because I am still who I am regardless of whether they accept that or not. And I need to accept people for who they are and not expect them to change for me and not expect myself to change for them. And these are things, that I've known and I've heard, but it's one thing to know, it's something else to feel that way, to change that, to internalize that. And as I internalize those things, it changes my default settings. And I need to change my default settings because they're very counterproductive. They're very self-destructive default settings. And I'm grateful that I can see that. And I'm grateful that I can see that there's a better way. There is a way up, there is a way out. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not a train. And I am grateful for that too. And I am grateful for all these things that I have seen and I'm learning about myself, and for this process, as horrible as it is, that I'm going through. Because I feel like it's making me a better person. And even if it's not making me a better person, it's making me aware of who I am and what I have to offer, and that what I have and who I am is valuable. It's of value, and maybe not to everyone, but to someone and to God, and that's enough. And I am grateful for that. And I am grateful for this journey of emotions and self esteem and things that I don't think I would have discovered any other way. And it's, it's an amazingly, incredibly difficult journey. Lots of hurdles. And, but I'm grateful for it. And maybe I should call that my emotional journey to gratitude or something. I should title my 100 days, my 100-day journey to gratitude or something. I don't know. Need to come up with a better name. It is focused on gratitude. That's the idea. But I go through so many emotional ups and downs in these videos. It's insane. And I'm grateful for the people that have come on this journey with me, because it's been a journey. It's been an adventure. And there are still 31 days left of this adventure. And then maybe we'll go on another one when it's all done. We'll see what happens in 31 days. So thank you for listening, for watching. If you like, you can hit like, subscribe. You can share with other people if you think this will help them too. And have a day full of gratitude. Thank you.